From online sweepstakes to limited real-world events, the Animal Crossing series has held some bizarre, yet very interesting, promotional events. Today we take a closer look at some of these events and how they gave way to some of the rarest and extremely expensive items in Nintendo's history. Starting with the first generation games, let's talk about the Animal Crossing Pioneer program. About a month before the game's official English release, Nintendo of America announced a promotional contest where 125 teams of 2 would be selected to receive advanced, early copies of Animal Crossing. This contest was actually an English writing assignment, and you had to team up with a buddy and both submit a written response on why you deserved to play the game early and be an Animal Crossing pioneer. The catch here is that each written response had to be 50 words or less, meaning you had to choose your words carefully and get creative. Again, 125 winning teams were selected, and they were mailed a thank you letter from Nintendo, a calendar, and a special, not-for-resale promotional copy of the game a few weeks before its official release. The idea behind this contest was that winners would play the game early with their friends and spread buzz about the game online. Winners of this Pioneer program were also given special passwords to enter an exclusive online forum where they could discuss the game amongst other pioneers. This was all pretty cool, and a few pioneers from that time have come forward to share their experience. If you're curious on what a winning submission looked like for this contest, pioneer Joshua Sloan shared their submission online in 2007. Given that responses had to be 50 words or less, Josh and his friend Alex got creative and wrote in their responses in the form of a haiku. Josh's response reads, 24/7, 365, or 6 per year, Animal Crossing. If can't pioneer, Mario would stay in cube, legs would atrophy. And his teammate Alex's response reads, night and day system. It sounds promising to me. Acting as if real. And when connected to my small Game Boy Advance, possibilities. Very eloquent words indeed, and such creativity led to them being selected as a Pioneer winner. Anyways, I mentioned that winners of this contest received a special promotional copy of the game ahead of its official launch. In fact, this copy of the game has a special not-for-resale printing on the actual disc itself. This begs the question, is there anything different between this early promotional copy of the game and the actual retail version? Well, if we take a closer look, you can find that the not-for-resale version of this game is very much identical to the retail version. To be specific, both the promotional disc and the release version of this game are a byte-for-byte match and are identical in every way except for the printing on the physical disc. Although technically, a complete Pioneer version of this game also has a different manual. And by different, I simply mean that the Pioneer version does not have a barcode on the back of the manual, whereas the retail version does. Despite these minuscule differences, collectors go crazy for even the slightest of discrepancies. The not-for-resale branding, coupled with only 250 copies in circulation, makes this specific copy of Animal Crossing an extremely rare and expensive item. The most recent sale that I'm aware of clocked in at around $2,250 US just for the box disc alone, which was sold by Mori, who is a mutual of mine and a fellow YouTuber. A complete in-box set of the calendar, letter, and game reportedly sold at prices as high as $3,500 US. Pretty crazy just for a copy of the game that simply has a different label printed on the disc. Another mutual of mine and fellow content creator Cakehoarder actually had not one, but 2 copies of this disc many years ago. Unfortunately, he sold his Pioneer copies alongside his world's largest Animal Crossing collection back in 2018, which is a decision he painfully regrets. Cakehoarder is actually in the market to buy back a copy of this Pioneer disc, so if you or anybody you know has a copy for sale, feel free to hit him up. Next, let's shift focus over to Japan and talk about the original Dōbutsu no Mori on the Nintendo 64. Since this version was quickly succeeded by the GameCube Plus version just 8 months later, promotions and events surrounding this specific game are quite rare. Still, one of these promotions came to our attention just a couple months ago, and once again, it involves our old friend Ice Climber for the NES, or more accurately, for the Famicom. For those who don't know, all first-generation games of Animal Crossing include NES or Famicom emulation to some extent, where you can interact with furniture items to play full emulated versions of various games. I've talked about this feature extensively with the GameCube releases, but this feature was still present on the N64 original. However, while the GameCube releases have 19 NES games, Dōbutsu no Mori only has 7 Famicom games. Still, fans of this channel may recall me talking about the blank NES item that actually searches your memory card for ROM data and allows you to play most NES games in Animal Crossing so long as you can inject it onto your memory card. The original N64 game has an equivalent blank Famicom Disk System item that also searches for ROM data. But of course, the N64 did not have a traditional slot for a memory card, so instead, Dōbutsu no Mori actually searches for ROM data present on your controller pack that you can plug into the back of any N64 controller. The idea here is that you can actually inject NES or Famicom ROM data onto a Nintendo 64 controller pack, and the game would be able to read and emulate that ROM data when interacting with the Disk System item. In theory, Nintendo would distribute special controller packs that included Famicom ROMs on them, which could be played in Dōbutsu no Mori. I say in theory because until recently, we actually believed that this functionality involving scanning for external ROM data was completely unused and overlooked. However, in 2018, Japanese Twitter user Napolitan posted images of a Nintendo Dream magazine giveaway. Readers of the magazine had the chance to enter a special sweepstakes by simply writing and sending in a letter about their experiences with Dōbutsu no Mori. This contest ended on June 21, 2001, and only 30 lucky winners were ever selected. The prize for this sweepstakes? A special Ice Climber N64 controller pack with ROM data specifically formatted to play within Dōbutsu no Mori. To our knowledge, this is the only official instance of the Famicom ROM loading feature ever being used in any first-generation Animal Crossing game. However, as I mentioned, apparently only 30 winners were lucky enough to receive this special Ice Climber N64 controller pack. No matter how hard I looked, I could not find any information about this online, and seemingly nobody has a documented copy of this N64 controller pack. Luckily, at least the magazine has been archived, and we can clearly translate this issue of Nintendo Dream to confirm this was a real giveaway. So presumably, the Ice Climber N64 controller packs exist somewhere. Still, as a Japanese exclusive item with only 30 theoretical copies in circulation, this would perhaps be one of the rarest items not only in Animal Crossing history, but also Nintendo history. We may also be running out of time to find one, since controller packs are battery-backed, and these would have been produced over 23 years ago. And since batteries run dry eventually, time is ticking. Unfortunately, this pack is seemingly lost to time, but maybe some extreme collectors or enthusiasts can eventually unearth an existing copy of this controller pack. One last rare distribution that I barely hear anybody talk about was related to Wild World and the Animal Crossing movie. Shortly before the anime movie was released in Japan, moviegoers could buy an advance ticket at select retailers and receive a special golden tool of their choice in their copy of Wild World. Of course, Wild World's golden tools are all unlockable in the base game, but you could get one tool early through this special distribution. How this worked was that retailers selling advance tickets to the movie would have a distribution hotspot set up, and you could bring in your DS and have a golden tool wirelessly transmitted into your game. This made a special letter in a bottle wash up on your beach with the tool attached as a present, which is pretty cool. I could only find one image of this letter online, and when translated, it reads, "I present you with a special gold watering can as a gift. Use it to water wilted black roses. I'll be waiting for you at the movies. From the director." Presumably, a letter exists for each of the golden tools that reference each of their unique abilities, like how this letter references how to obtain golden roses with the gold watering can. As another Japan exclusive, and given how limited this promotional event was, having a copy of one of these letters in your game is pretty rare, and the distributed data related to them is lost to time. Anyways, I hope you learned something interesting about the most rare items and the most obscure promotional events throughout the Animal Crossing series. As a final aside, if any of you are aware of anyone owning this copy of the Ice Climber N64 controller pack, or if you have additional information about it, please don't hesitate to drop a comment or reach out to me. Regardless, that's going to do it for me today. Shout out to Cakehoarder, Mayor Mori, and the wonderful spreadsheet server for providing me with some very useful footage and links. And as always, a very special thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members for supporting my research and content here. Special appreciation goes to my highest tier members Lunascape, Cynthia, Justin Trudeau, Silly Marina, Villager, Cass, Hornet, Terumi, Pidge01, Kai D, ComfyBoy404, Japan Eat, Tammy's Head, Comfy, Exploding Bears, Holly Molly, Idrin, Zip, Bobby Nard, The Amazing Wolfie, Moggery, Puff, and The Casual Perry. And of course, thank you all for watching. Until next time.